People who tend to fight wars are typically very patriotic, very male people.
Yes, that's a perfectly normal sentence coming out of Ben Shapiro's mouth for his incredible intellectually driven podcast. There he was going off on another basically decline of masculinity rant, aka male people. I don't know where he's going with this. But this time, of course, he's talking about the military. Somehow it's been very feminized. Let's take a look at his full comments.
Sorry to break it to you, but this has been the truth about military warfare for literally all of human history. And the institution of traditional masculinity has been core to that idea. But we're a society that doesn't believe in traditional masculinity. Traditional masculinity is an opponent because traditional masculinity requires roles. It says that men are supposed to protect, men are supposed to defend, men are supposed to be strong, men are supposed to be fathers and husbands. These are apparently very bad things now. You're not supposed to say these things.
Yes, that is, of course, why the withdrawal from Afghanistan went so poorly, was the decline of American masculinity. Obviously, the fact that there are women in the military. Oh, my God. You can't take Ben Shapiro seriously when talking about masculinity, not with that just helium-filled personified wedgie voice that he has going on. But of course, don't take it from me. There's lots of other people who had wanted to weigh in. Tom Nichols from The Atlantic writes, aside from not having a clue about what he's talking about, there's a lot going on here, especially while the super masculine, unwoke Russian military is getting its ass kicked. Again, we've seen and talked about on this program how much the right is fawning over the Russian military. They kind of quieted down when they attacked and invaded Ukraine. But because there were no women in their ads, it was like, yeah, oh yeah, there's just, it's so masculine. But then Vote Vets, who kind of I would listen to more than Ben Shapiro, says, hey, Ben Shapiro, our women warriors are among our best and bravest. How dare someone who's never served talk like this? Oh, yeah? What about this photo of him? Look at this. Is he not hard? He not masculine? He not tough? Make Marquette great. I have no idea what that hat even means. What is Marquette? It doesn't sound that masculine to me.
No, presumably he's referring to the college. Okay. So I guess he was speaking at Marquette. But anyways, doesn't appear to be the picture of masculinity as the right wing would paint it, by the way, not us, right? But it's okay, Francesca, because he made up for it with the stubble. Did you notice that? If you're going to give a speech about masculinity, you got to get a little stubble going in so you don't look like a 13-year-old.
It only took 6 months to get there.
Yeah, it paid off, that 6 months of growing out that stubble. All right? Because now you can talk about masculinity about very male people. Very male. That beard is very male. Okay, he actually said very male. That's hilarious. All right, now, guys.
Very male people.
All right, so let's break this down. So everybody's talking about the Russian military in response to this. That makes sense because they're very proud that Russian military is not woke, as Francesca referred to. And yes, Tucker Carlson and many other right-wing media outlets were like, oh, yeah, Russian military. That's how you do it, baby. You discriminate. You don't worry about training or any of the strategy or tactics. You just make sure they're male, and they're very male. And then, oops, there's drones. We didn't think about that. We were busy being very male, and we didn't come in very prepared at all. And they got their ass handed to them. And by the way, a lot of the people who handed them their ass were Ukrainian civilians, including little grandmas.
Yep.
There's a lot of stories about that. They were not at all male. Tiny little grandmas preparing Molotov cocktails for those very manly Russian soldiers. How did it work out for them? Okay, but it's not just about the Russian military. It's interesting because Ben Shapiro apparently disrespects the Israeli military. He thinks they're weak. You know why? Women serve in the Israel Defense Forces.
Good point.
IDF is filled with women. So, they're not very male. Israel's so weak. And that's not my opinion. That's Ben Shapiro's opinion. So apparently their military is ruined now. Shh, don't tell anybody in the region. You're just encouraging folks. But they say absurd things like this because that's what their audience wants. Their audience wants, oh, yeah, women suck, man. That doesn't ruin the military. But if you bring my fat ass into the military, I'm very male. Trust me. Trust me, I'm very male. and I got this thing covered. Do you? And do I need to point out that, of course, Ben Shapiro didn't serve in the military at all?
Just the phrase "very male" is the height of fragility. If you need to say that, like, your masculinity is clearly feeling threatened, and that's what this all is. You know, it's like we talk about toxic masculinity all the time, but if you have to over focus on the fact that women are serving in the military and you're freaking out about it, then that's on you. That's not on the military. That's on you. And it has nothing to do with the performance. And if you really want to talk about it, I would argue that actually toxic masculinity and too much masculinity is what hurts U.S. foreign policy. Not enough diplomacy, not enough discussion, not actually preventing war and preventing people from dying, right? That's what's hurting us. Not actually, not have, like, we should, yeah, hell yeah, we should have a feminized military. I'm into that because it's not tied to gender, man. These are just traits. These are just qualities and anyone can have them. Again, just like he sounds like an 11-year-old girl going through puberty. Look, it's just a little feminine. Anywho, this obviously isn't the first time he's gone off about this, but I don't want to play you anymore. We can.
Yeah, but guys, there's an important point in here too. But before I get to that, I like Francesca's point. So I like any guy who walks into a room and goes, "I'm very male." Yeah. Are you? Is that why you screamed it into the abyss? Okay. I'm sure you're not at all insecure about it. I'm positive. All right. Anyway, so now the most important point here, guys. Look at the trick that he does. Every right winger in media does this. We just debated Dennis Prager. I pointed out the number of times that he did it. It's a sleight of hand. They conflate the issues. They say most of the wars in the world have been fought by males. First of all, congrats. You must be so proud. Like, guys, we nailed it.
Well, I mean, name me a war that hasn't been incredible.
Yeah.
Just bang up job.
No, but they literally brag about how we started all the wars. Got millions of people killed. We're very male. Very male. Okay. All right. That's fine. It is what it is, right? But then he turns around, and it is true that historically, unfortunately, wars have been very male, right? But then he turns around and says, that's why we shouldn't have women in the military. Wait, those are two different things. Yes, wars have been traditionally more of a male, thing to do. But of course, there's been women in the militaries of a lot of different countries, and there are today. There have been women-led armies. There have been armies made up of women, but predominantly it has been men. But that doesn't mean you should exclude women from combat. Mm-hmm. But he makes it sound like, oh yeah, well, the wars are male, and of course everything's male, and then so that's why. So historically, that's a fact. It's a fact. So obviously, we should exclude women. Wait, no, it's not at all obvious. You just tricked everyone at the very end there by conflating the two issues. And it's super easy for them to do it because they have a right-wing audience. So the right-wing audience doesn't care about things that are true. They only care about things that suit their feelings. That's why his slogan of "facts don't care about your feelings" is the most ironic slogan in all of media, because his audience tunes in for nothing but feelings. They're like, oh, wait, Israel's not at all weak. They have women in their military. Yeah, traditionally men have been in charge of war and it's gone disastrously, but that doesn't mean we can't have women in the military. No one in Ben's audience would ever bother to do logic like that. They just came for feelings. Like, yeah, me think men is good, women are bad. Oh, he said it. Oh, I like it. Oh, the feelings make me feel so comfortable.
But not in a gay way. Because we're raging homophobes. So yeah, very, very male, but not that male. I'm really into masculine men. Oh, but not like that. But I'm really into masculine men. But of course, I would never go bake a cake for my friend Dave Rubin. Ever, ever, ever. No, that's disgusting. Gross. Ewy, patooey. But really masculine men. Doesn't that make sense? What?
Francesca, it's so true. I mean, not only are they coming into the room yelling, I am very male, right? But they're coming into the room going, I want very males all around me. Yes. I will not bake a cupcake for anyone, but surround me with very males. That's what I need. Okay.
I want to touch their muscles, but I won't like it. I won't like it at all.
I won't. Hey, guys, just go to therapy and work it out, man, and leave the rest of us alone.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.